Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about some things that the government doesn't seem to want low income people to know. And of course, that's the focal point of everything we do here at this channel is trying to help you uncover information that is hard to find. But these are some things that have been on my mind lately that I think it's really important for you to be aware of. So you may not know this, but billions of dollars in help go unclaimed every year. And that's largely because the system is not designed to be easy to use. It's not designed to make life easy for low income families. So, today we're going to talk about some of the biggest secrets that the government doesn't talk about so that you can get the benefits that you may have missed. So, like I said, billions in benefits go unclaimed every year. Seniors alone miss out on about $30 billion in public benefits from SNAP to Medicare Extra Help and more. A lot of times they don't apply because they don't know about the program or they assume they're not eligible or they're afraid of the paperwork requirements. And that is hugely detrimental. For example, Medicare Extra Help can cut drug costs to almost nothing, yet many people never claim it at all. And those lost benefits mean higher rates of food insecurity, more skipped meals, unpaid bills, and more because people are missing out on what they should be getting. So let's take a look at some of the most unused benefits, right? So when it comes to WIC, only about half of eligible people use WIC. When it comes to SNAP or food stamps, about 60% of eligible seniors do not use those benefits. Medicare Savings Programs, there are currently 40% of people who qualify that aren't enrolled, and those can save you almost $2,000 a year. For people who file taxes, approximately 70% of taxpayers are eligible to use free filing services, but only 2 to 3% actually do. These are real programs that offer real help, but people are missing out on that. Now, if you need help with your Medicare costs, I would recommend that you reach out to our sponsored chapter. They help seniors save an average of $1,100 a year, and it only takes about 20 minutes to make sure that you're on the best plan for your needs. So give them a call at the number that you see there on screen. Now, in addition to this, there are other things that they don't seem to want you to know. And one of those is that states are holding on to billions of dollars in unclaimed money. There's over $41 billion being held by the states that belongs to people in the country. These can be forgotten bank balances, checks, deposits, rebates, things that you have long since forgotten about that are just sitting there waiting for you to claim them. The average amounts vary by state. It's often hundreds of dollars per person. It's free and easy to search. You just go to missingmoney.com or your state's specific website. Now, it is important to search every state you've ever lived in because if you move and whoever owes you can't find you, that money is going to end up in this missing money database, and you want to make sure that you're getting everything that you are owed. Another thing that I've uncovered during my research for this is just how much more help the wealthy get compared to people who are low income. And I know it sounds backwards because we're always hearing in the news and things about the problem being benefit programs. But when you look at the data, it's really interesting to see just how much government assistance goes to people in the top tax brackets. One of my favorite books that I've read lately is Poverty by America, and it does a really great job of breaking down why it's so hard for low income people to get the benefits that they need and are eligible for. And honestly, in a lot of cases, it just comes down to the fact that if you're broke, if you're disabled, if you're having a hard time, if you are already so stressed out that you cannot handle one more thing, then you can't handle jumping through all of the hoops and chasing down all of the things that are out there. But if you're super wealthy, you can hire somebody to do that for you, right? The wealthy have accountants and lawyers and people who can manage that paperwork and get them the benefits that they are eligible for. And it's really kind of gross when you start looking into the data just how skewed that is. So I'm just going to share a couple quick quotes with you really quick. So in this book, Matthew Desmond writes, the federal government spent more than $193 billion on homeowner subsidies, a figure that far exceeded the amount spent on direct housing assistance for low-income families, which was just $53 billion. Most families who enjoy these subsidies have six-figure incomes, okay? In another place, he says the United States spent $1.8 trillion on tax breaks in 2021. That amount exceeded total spending on law enforcement, education, housing, healthcare, diplomacy, and everything else that makes up our discretionary budget. I feel like that's really relevant right now because we're hearing a lot about tax breaks in the news and the cuts to other programs that are being made to help fund those tax cuts. And then, of course, there's this final statement where he says the most recent data compiling the spending on social insurance, means tested programs, tax benefits, and financial aid for higher education show that the average household in the bottom 20% receives roughly $25,733 in government benefits a year, while the average household in the top 20% receives about $35,365. Every year, the richest American families receive almost 40% more in government subsidies than the poorest American families. And that is gross. Now, we also know a raise can often hurt more than it helps. We've seen how a higher minimum wage or a small raise can push families just over the limits for SNAP, Medicaid, or housing limits. That benefits cliff is a very real problem where you could lose hundreds or even thousands of dollars in assistance while only gaining a few dollars in wages. We've also talked recently about the no tax on tips was actually really detrimental for a lot of low income workers as well, because if you make most of your money from tips, and then it's not taxable, then you're not going to get those tax refunds that a lot of families count on as well. So there's a lot of little loopholes here that the government uses to do things that sound helpful, but in practice really are not that helpful. And sometimes it's done very discreetly, and sometimes it's done in very obvious ways. For example, this slide here about gatekeeping talks about how the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, so called, suspended and delayed rules that were designed to simplify and streamline access to programs like Medicaid, which intentionally kept those programs more complicated than they needed to be. And we've seen in SNAP how states with more red tape see lower rates of participation, not because people don't need it or don't qualify for it, but simply because it's harder to get. And the result there, of course, is billions in aid saved at the expense of struggling families who should have received that assistance. Now, what are the action steps here, right? Because I hate making depressing videos. This has really been bugging me for a while, and I wanted to bring attention to this because things are getting more contentious politically, right? And it's more important than ever to know what's going on in Congress, to know who to reach out to, how to make your voice heard on these issues that matter, because some of these problems are getting bigger over time. So, first thing I'd recommend, go to missingmoney.com, find anything that's missing that you are owed, right? Go to benefits.gov, see if there are any benefits that you may qualify for that you aren't already aware of. Because I tell you, when you qualify for one program, they're not going to tell you what else you automatically qualify for. In a lot of cases, you have to do that digging yourself, and that's why we do what we do here at Low Income Relief. You can also contact your local agencies and watch our videos to learn more about programs that may be able to help you, but especially call and email your lawmakers and share your thoughts about benefits cliffs, long wait lists, unfair rules, program cuts, tax cuts for the wealthy, things like that that have a very real impact on your benefits and your well-being. Because in a lot of cases, your real stories can help shape the policies that come forth. So it's really important to make sure that your voice is being heard. I will be back tomorrow with much better news, I promise, and I will see you there.